Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Comics Lair. We're discussing holidays with the superheroes. I'm your host, Nancy Northcott. The Comics Lair is sponsored by Heroes Aren't Hard to Find and Heroes Convention. We'll start by having the panel introduce themselves and tell us a little about how they came to be interested in superheroes. Samantha, will you start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Samantha Bryant. I'm best known as the author of the Menopausal Superheroes series. Unless maybe you know me in real life, then I'm best known for my banana bread. Sour cream is the secret. And I don't remember ever not being interested in superheroes. Among the very first things I ever read were comic books that I stole from my uncles. And I was a child of the 70s, which was quite the era of superheroes on television, in cartoons and in live action shows I watched with my dad. So I think maybe there were a couple of years like before I could read that I didn't know about superheroes, but it feels like it's always been.
Okay, Alex?
Oh, wow, I get to go second. Hi, I'm Alex Simmons. I'm a freelance writer, writing coach and consultant, and I'm known for writing a number of things, but in the superhero marketplace. Batman, I created the character Orpheus for the Batman Orpheus Rising miniseries. I've written Scooby-Doo, Superman, although that wasn't published. Archie, I wrote a number of Archie comics, and I would say, just to keep it short for now, like Samantha, literally, if I wasn't watching cartoons of superheroes or super characters, the first one that I can consciously remember animated was Mighty Mouse. But I was reading Superman comic books and Batman comic books. But I was always into them because how I was growing up, there were, let's just call it, limitations on my day-to-day possibilities. And so superheroes gave me a sense of being able to escape out of that and to affect society in a positive way and be a hero and help people and all that good stuff. So you start out wanting to make a difference, and what the heck, you get hooked on it.
Okay, Kelley?
My name is Kelley M. I am a freelance horror artist and author. And I also go by Morbid Smile Art. I've been into comics probably as long as I can remember. My dad was a big Superman comic book collector, and my mom collected EC comics, the old horror comics with Tales from the Crypt. And there was a big story that went around in our household, the tragedy of when my grandmother threw out my dad's stack of comics, including Superman #1. So I've been into comics for a very, very long time and was very lucky to have parents that encouraged that.
Wow. David?
Oh, sorry. Wasn't sure that was me. I'm David R. Slayton. I'm the author of the Adam Binder Urban Fantasy series, White Trash Warlock, Trailer Park Trickster, and Deadbeat Druid. I have been a superhero and comic fan my whole life. Really superheroes first, because comics were kind of rare in Guthrie, Oklahoma in the 70s. I think a lot like Samantha, I grew up with the old Wonder Woman TV show and the old Batman TV show and reruns, and really cut my teeth on all of that. So superheroes and comics have become a big part of my identity later, but happy to be here.
And Steve?
Hello, my name is Steven Stendebach. I'm a doctoral candidate in American Culture Studies at Bowling Green State University. I write a lot about pop culture, a lot of pop music, but pop culture in general. In terms of the question on superheroes, I think like a lot of the other panelists, cartoons a big part of my childhood growing up. But I'm from like a different era. So like Toonami was the big thing for me, which had a really nice mix of kind of traditional American superheroes like Batman Beyond, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, mixed with a lot of like anime heroes, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and then some like Cartoon Network originals like the Powerpuff Girls. So big fan of all of those. But then certainly like the big two and beyond, big fan of those as well.
Well, those of you who've seen me on panels before may have heard this story, but unlike everyone else, I can pinpoint the beginning of my interest in superheroes. I grew up in a small town, and there was a soda shop on Main Street that had a big plate glass window, and for some reason had a little platform in the window. And so they displayed their comic books there facing, so that you could read them as you walk, the titles as you walk by the window, because that's really good for comic books to be stored in direct sunlight. That's the best possible thing. And I was walking down Main Street with my grandfather, and this one in the layout on the window caught my attention. I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was a little weird. It was a Jimmy Olsen Elastic Lad story. And there was a hole in the sky, and the upper part of the cover was the Phantom Zone. I didn't know that at the time, but obviously do now, with the Phantom Zone villains and Mon-El. And Jimmy, as Elastic Lad, has stuck his head through a hole into the Phantom Zone, and Superman was flying up there. And I just really wanted that comic book. And I asked my grandfather, would you get that for me? And he said, honey, are you sure your mama wants you to have that? And had my mama known what was coming from that, I'm sure she would not have wanted me to have that. But I said, unconsciously zeroing in on something, oh, she would be fine with it if you buy it. And so she threw out my comic books from time to time. She was not keen on the whole comic book culture. My dad was fine with it. He'd pick up one every once in a while and read it. But I used to make a point of telling her when I'd gone to a convention and paid $5 for a book that I had paid, a few cents for, just to make the point that we shouldn't be throwing out comic books. So now that we know where we're all coming from, pick a superhero or a superhero team. Doesn't have to be your favorite, just one you think would be fun to play with, and tell us what their ideal seasonal holiday would be. Alex, will you start?
Oh, geez, why? Again with me? I'm still trying to recover from your parents throwing out the first Superman comic. That still hurts. I have to lean into what's always been my favorite comic book heroes, and that's Batman and Robin. I just at one point in my life envisioned growing up to be Batman, and then at another point I realized I was old enough to be Batman. And then at a third point, I realized I was the parent that got killed so that my kid could become Batman. So it's stuck with me throughout my life, no matter what I do. But Batman and Robin being the original Robin of Dick Grayson, as opposed to the other two or three. I just tend to think that the Batman, the animated series, did something that I would envision, which is a night patrol. They realize it's Christmas Eve. Maybe in my world or in my imagination, a crime would be at a lull for some strange reason. This particular night, there's really not a great deal of villainy. And so they're actually able to zero in on some, let's just call it, disenfranchised folks having problems, and them using their abilities, skills, and whatever to affect that. And I think, again, because of the Batman that I grew up with didn't need as much therapy as the one that exists now, it wouldn't take him that long to get into it and to really sort of enjoy it. And him and Robin eventually have let's call it maybe around midnight or 1 a.m. or something like that, where they've done a series of good deeds. They're on some steeple somewhere, enjoying some hot chocolate and taking it in that, they have made a difference, and in their own way, they've delivered some presents to Gotham City. That would be my sort of vision.
Okay. Kelley?
I was thinking, and for me, I think probably the best, one of the ones that I would love to see would be a really cool, like an Arkham Asylum Christmas. That I'm all about the Arkham inmates. And so I would love to see just, how wild and wacky that would be. You just, kidnap some guards, put them aside and take over the place, and maybe decorate Jeremiah Arkham like a Christmas tree and make him stand there, and just, just the wild and wacky hijinks of that, and how, of course Batman will come in and stop it eventually, but the entertaining part of just seeing how creative you could get with, turning the holiday into this big, bright, festive thing, and not making it go super dark, like keeping it more like BTAS, Batman Animated Series style, not going super dark. I don't want Serious House on Serious Earth style Arkham Christmas, but to just, something cool and wholesome, some wholesome Harley and Ivy moments, some cute, like just interesting character interaction would be fun. Maybe the Joker's not there, so it becomes like a little more wholesome than it would be if he was on hand. I would love a story like that.
David?
I really love I love it when two disparate groups can get together, like what Kelley's doing, kind of, or maybe something like the Legion of Superheroes, which has had multiple versions over the years. I think it'd be really great for them to have like a big Christmas dinner where dimensional travel or time travel, all their different iterations get together for one big meal and feast. Like all the different versions of Brainiac 5 getting to communicate and talk to each other. And I think that'd be really cool.
Back in my day.
And not die, because there was some miniseries where all these incarnations of the Legion ended up together and they were all dying at the end, and that's a cheery story.
I know, and I hated that. I really love the Abnett, the DNA run, for example, and that version just kind of got retconned out, of course, in one of the many crises.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
So you're more of a Paul Levitt kind of guy, huh?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Steve, what about you?
So I was thinking about going around Black Panther and kind of around that mythos. And one thing that I really like about the Black Panther kind of like lore and story is the connections he has with his ancestors. And so I thought one thing that could be fun is if it was like a Dickinson Christmas Carol retelling with Black Panther, but instead of talking with like the ghost of Christmas, like past, present, future, whatever, it's different previous incarnations of the Black Panther. Right. So like maybe he gets to meet with T'Chaka, his dad, or Bashanga, the first Black Panther, or maybe even just create some new Black Panther title holders that haven't been introduced yet. And in terms of, I was thinking about how that could relate to T'Challa as a character. Perhaps this could be placed in the mythos before Wakanda kind of reveals itself to the world, right? And essentially, it's like the ghost giving him the pros and cons of what Wakanda would be like if they became kind of more of a global known entity. Like, of course, the comic goes after that. So I thought that would be a fun story. Again, just having those interactions between T'Challa and some of the previous Black Panthers, I'd be interested in seeing.
Okay. Samantha?
So I didn't exactly grow up with Christmas. I always say I put the ish in Jewish. But I married into pretty hardcore Catholic Christmas. And so I've been doing it for almost 17 years now. How did that happen? But I think the Christmas stories I always enjoy are the redemption, bring the family back together, forgive each other kinds of stories. And so when you put this question out for us, I was like, well, that's got to be a Batman story then, right? Because who needs redemption and forgiveness more than that screwed up family? So I had this whole like multiverse canon thing going where like Alfred decides that everybody needs to make peace with each other and he makes them all come. And because, this is my fan fiction, I can do whatever I want, right? I've got all of them, like all of the Robins. And they're there as Robin and Nightwing somehow, and I imagined it being like, Bruce is just like, having to, with all the drama coming back in, but everybody gets their little moment of like expressing their hurt and finding their peace with each other. And then we bond again over how much we love Gotham and, how much we love trying to save our twisted little town. And, then we get our happy redemption holiday feelings.
I like that story, and it's. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I like that idea, Samantha, and I'm kind of blanking on who the author is. It might be a Scott Snyder story, but I know there's kind of like a small short story one shot of, I think, the Bat family coming together to do like a group portrait, and so it's kind of like all of the weird side characters like doing interactions together leading up to the group photo. So that's
I was just thinking of that issue. Yeah. There's a really sweet.
If you guys can remember the details, send it to me. I want to look this up. That sounds like fun.
I'll dig it up for you. Yeah, I have it somewhere.
Well, if we're going to do that, then I think it was Kelley. Yeah, you mentioned your Arkham Asylum event and Batman the Animated Series. There's the episode where I think it's a Christmas Night with Joker, Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, Christmas with the Joker.
Where he escapes. So yeah, there's your setup right there. He escapes, and while he's off doing his thing, we stay with you at Arkham, and we have that sort of get together. So that's a wild one too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Batman's
so it starts right after the Christmas tree rocket takes off.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
Yeah.
That would actually mesh in continuity really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would be so here for that. That would be just great.
One of my favorite teams is the Titans, who started out as the Teen Titans. And I mean, I'm old enough. I remember when they fought the Mad Mod on Carnaby Street. So it's been a while. But in all the various crises, some of the things that happened, one of the things that happened, which I personally don't like, I'm sure some people do, but I don't, is that Roy's daughter, Leanne, whose mother was the supervillain Cheshire, who's an assassin, disappeared. And when we came back from one of the more recent crises, she'd aged up. She had been a toddler, and there are all these cool stories about the Titans. I mean, she's got nicknames for them: Uncle Nightwing, Uncle Gillhead, which just annoys the living daylights out of Aqualad. And they're wonderful stories. And then they aged her up, and she became one of Catwoman's kind of proteges, nicknamed Shoes. And Roy doesn't know where she is, because we just got Roy back, because he was killed in that 7-part. I blanked it because I didn't like it. So
no one stays dead for long. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Roy was killed, and he came back in one of these recent crisis things that DC's been doing lately. And there's just a little throwaway line in a recent issue where he says something to Jason, says something to him about, "We'll find Leanne." And I thought, Roy misses his little girl. And first I would make her a little girl again, because, hey, magic, Satana's in this universe, and if you can age John Kent up, you can age Leanne down.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that. And then I would have the Titans decide that for Christmas, because Roy maybe says something about how he used to love Leanne at Christmas and how excited she would get. The Titans decide they're going to find Roy's daughter for Christmas, and they go out to do that. And then Roy, of course, figures out what they're doing. And of course, we have this big emotional reunion somewhere involving a Christmas tree and lots of lights. And so that's what I would do.
Excellent.
If I could.
I'd be so tempted to do that, like have it like the reunion between Kevin and his mom at the end of Home Alone 2, where they're like in the big area of New York in front of the giant tree. That would be just, you may as well.
Yeah. I mean,
go big or go home, man.
Right. Yeah. You might as well just have the Rockefeller Center right there.
Yes.
I love that tree. I don't live anywhere near New York, so I've only seen it at Christmas like twice in my whole life.
I have the unique distinction of, this is like maybe 5, 6 years ago. I live in the Bronx, near Van Cortlandt Park. And for some odd reason, at 1:00 in the morning, I had to take out this trash. And I stepped out to the curb, and down the avenue that I live on came this giant tree. And I realized immediately, and it's on a flatbed truck, I realized that was the Rockefeller tree on its way down to Manhattan. And I stood there in absolute amazement. I was the only person on the block. And I'm going, you want to yell to somebody, I find, eventually after I watched the whole thing pass, I went running into the house to tell my family. I had to wake half of them up. But that was it. The big, and after that, who needs to go down to Rockefeller Center? The tree came down my block.
That's amazing. Like, I can't imagine how huge that is. And it's so surreal because it's at night and you're by yourself. And you're just like, what?
Exactly. It was like a Kevin moment. It was like a Charlie Brown moment. I'm the only person standing there as this giant tree is rolling down the street. Yeah.
God.
Well, on that note, let's move to holiday superhero Christmas stories that we've enjoyed. We've already kind of touched a little bit on Batman the Animated Series, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it some more. So, Kelley, will you start us off?
Oh gosh, I'm such a like complete Batman addict, and Batman the Animated Series was like my big thing. So honestly, like there's so many good moments. I love the Christmas with the Joker, obviously. I also love Holiday Nights that they did later, which was more episodic. There was a really good episode in there, because it was an anthology episode, so lots of little bits and pieces happening in there. And I think my favorite part is at the end where Batman and Jim Gordon sit down and just have coffee together at the end, and they're just like, because it takes you all the way through, leading up to Christmas, all the way up through New Year's Eve. So for them, it's like the year's wrapped up. We're sitting there, we're calm, and we're able to just,
we made it one more year.
Yeah, we've survived. If we can meet up, then we're good. And Batman always pays, and he always tips, and it's like, of course he does. He better.
That's right.
Can I add a thought to that?
Sure.
There's an episode of the animated series which was perfect. The animated series is absolutely perfect. There's an episode of that is not a Christmas story, but Sure Sugar could fit in nicely around the holidays, and it's the Mr. Freeze story.
Oh yeah.
Oh my! With the poetic, recitations that Michael N. Sarah delivers as the voice of Mr. Freeze, and with the snow and the ice and everything, it would just plug right in to a December, serving of Batman stories. So I tend to think, and especially the last part, if you remember it, is Batman standing on a building overlooking the prison, and he can see Mr. Freeze through the prison window, and you can tell he feels for this character. He feels for this man's pain, and then he turns and sort of just disappears into the night. It's just like, that is just so well done. Yay, Bruce Timm.
Honestly, every holiday season, I go back and rewatch all of the Mr. Freeze episodes just back to back, and then end with was it Batman Sub-Zero with the animated movie they did with the polar bears and the big reveal about his oh boy. But that one, it's I don't know, it has this holiday vibe to it because it's all about just like, redemption and that warmth, and him craving that warmth and reconnection with other people, but going about it entirely the wrong way. And just, I don't know, Mr. Freeze, everyone's got a soft spot for Mr. Freeze. I think he's such a good character.
One thing that I think is at least worth mentioning on Christmas with the Joker is that was an extremely early episode, at least in how it aired. I don't know where it was in the production cycle, but in terms of as episodes aired, that was the second one of the animated series. So that's your first appearance of Harley Quinn, right? So everyone's first time like seeing the character, was obviously now like one of the biggest characters in DC, started in the Christmas special.
David, what about you?
I think I always love, again, I kind of love it when you can see two different groups get together. So the GSA, GLA Thanksgiving meals, those were always some of my favorite classic holiday stories. I love it when I love like that whole Batman photo op with his sons. I love those kind of redemption, families coming together, forgiveness around the holidays vibes. So,
Steve?
Yeah. So I was rewatching the Justice League Christmas special. So essentially like your follow up to like Batman the Animated Series kind of follow up. And I think it was called Comfort and Joy was the name of the episode. And it opens with just a quick throwaway line of like Superman saying that Batman would rather be in like the tower doing like guard duty instead of like joining in the holiday season. They kind of write off the character. And I kind of wonder, at least hearing these conversations, if part of that was because they've kind of like already explored like Batman and Christmas time so many times within the animated series. But one thing that I also wanted to mention on this particular episode that I thought was really good is how they handle Superman as a character, because he's going back to Kansas, obviously, to have Christmas with his family again, and he bites like Martian Manhunter, so someone who has no familiarity with Christmas and how it functions, and seeing Martian Manhunter seeing Clark interact with his family, he says something like, I've never seen this side of you before, like you're so much warmer than usual, and Clark says something akin to, That's what's great about the holiday season. I can finally like be myself. And I thought that was a very significant line because whenever people explore kind of like the Superman, Clark Kent duality, I always hear like the Kill Bill Volume 2 ending, right? Of Superman's his real identity. Clark Kent is his disguise, is his mask.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked how they did this with the holiday special, how they kind of like, I don't want to say flip it because I think a lot of people think Clark Kent's his real identity, but certainly lean into the other end of it, right? He's just the normal person who just happens to have all these powers.
Jeff Loeb does a wonderful bit in, and I can't remember the name of the storyline at this time, but it's after Robin, not Tim Drake, Jason Todd had died. It's that period of stories after that, and Batman's in a really messed up place, and he's really being reckless, and everybody's worried about him. And there's this moment when Superman takes him to Kansas. And they're standing out in daylight. They're standing out in the cornfield. And Superman says, "This is what I fight for." He says, "You fight against the Joker and the Riddler. This is what I fight for." And that's a very humanizing moment for Superman for me. I'm with you on that. The attitude that, and I think this ties into the holidays, the attitude that the better version of ourselves is the hardcore, powerful version, the unforgiving, the brute, the strong, fearless individual is not that great a road to go down. And there's a number of different stories in fiction that explore that and tries to teach us that we, if anything, need both sides to cope. We need to have a strength and a will and a determination to do certain things, but we shouldn't lose that humanity that we were also gifted with. And I think, what you're saying is a good example of that. Absolutely.
We know, and as I was getting ready for this, I looked at an old holiday special, and there was a story in it. I didn't especially love it. I didn't especially like the artwork, but the story was about a man whose car is broken down on the side of the road at the Christmas season, and it's snowing, and people keep passing him. And he and his wife have separated. He's just taken her to her new home. He's got to sell their old home. He's estranged from their daughter. And he's just like, this is just one thing too many, and I can't do this anymore. And who should happen along but Superman? And Superman convinces him that, look, you're on a curve. People would have been right on top of you before they saw you. And then they can't brake in all this snow and this ice. They could kill themselves and you too. It doesn't mean they don't care what happens to you. And under the guise of slowly thawing out the guy's engine block, he talks to him about taking a different side view, different perspective on things. And in the end convinces him. It was such, as you say, a human moment. The man says, well, my daughter, she wouldn't want to hear from me. She won't care if anything happens to me. And Superman says, I think any orphan would tell you that they would do anything for another conversation with their parents. And I know a little something about that. And so in the end, he gives the guy directions. These people will take you in. They'll give you Christmas dinner. You'll love it. It'll be great. Take exit 20. And the last panel in the story is exit 20, and it says Smallville. That's where the story ended.
Wow.
Samantha, I think we've come around to you.
So when you were talking about comfort and joy, I think the part, it's a difference in families, I guess, but the part that I remember is that there was a great bar fight. But the episode I came thinking about tonight is of Static Shock. Do you guys remember Static Shock?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's not my era of cartoon, but it is when my older daughter was a little kid. And so I watched it as a mom, right? And I rewatched this episode to prepare for today. Just a second. The name of the episode is Frozen Out. And it's a holiday episode, and the reason I remembered this one is because I was watching it with my kid when they were little, and we were like, they just actually had Hanukkah. You never ever see, other holidays from December represented. So I didn't even care if the episode was any good at that point. They got total cred because there was Hanukkah. There were candles, and
Is his best friend Jewish?
They didn't do it up big, but it was there, and there was mention of Ramadan, and there was an interfaith celebration that actually looked like it might be interfaith and not just slightly less specific Christianity. So it was pretty darn cool. And I watched it this afternoon with my youngest, who is currently suffering for the flu. And but they were also really thrilled. They were like, "Whoa!" And it's a sweet story. It's kind of a riff on Hans Christian Andersen's Little Match Girl. Where you've got a homeless girl, and this is a superhero, so she has freeze powers. But kind of that's definitely the vibe I got, is this poor little frozen girl in the snow that nobody's paying attention to. And, it gets a happier ending because Hans Christian Andersen didn't write it.
Yeah.
No turning into sea foam or, being found later in the snowbank because, less Danish.
Yeah.
I knew Dwayne McDuffie, and that very much is his handprint on there. He created the character first and foremost, but he worked with Bruce Timm on the Justice League series and some other things, and of course Static was his baby. So that just sounds like Dwayne's heart. And if you met Dwayne, he was like what, 6'3" or 6, huge brother, but just a Pillsbury Doughboy inside. He was just a good person, really good person.
Yeah, I really like Virgil. I like the character. That's Static Shock's not superhero name is Virgil. And I really like him for some of the same reasons that I've always liked Peter Parker. He just this really nice kid who really just wants to do the right thing. And, despite some family tragedy himself, is a kind of a positive person. And, in my favorite versions of Spider-Man, he doesn't fall into the darkness so much. I don't really like, to Bruce Wayneify all of my heroes. It's nice to have ones that stay on the positive side sometimes.
I don't think Bruce is enjoying a lot of it either, actually.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just assume Bruce Wayne not be Bruce Wayneified, but that's a whole panel in and of itself, is the temperament of Bruce Wayne. The story that I picked to share is a Legion of Superheroes stories, and it's called Starlight, Starbright, Farthest Star I See Tonight. And it was in a holiday superhero comic book. And those are all anthologies, the holiday specials DC used to do. And Superboy comes to the 30th century, and as the Legion headquarters is under construction, having been destroyed in a recent battle. And Mon-El's on guard duty, and Phantom Girl slides through the wall and catches him under the mistletoe and kisses his cheek. And they go to the monitor room, and Saturn Girl's on monitor duty. And they're looking at different celebrations around the world on the monitor. And Colossal Boy, who is Jewish, is celebrating Hanukkah with his family. And Karate Kid has gone back to Japan and taken Princess Projectra and Sunboy with him to share a tea ceremony. And they also have a Christmas tree that just has one star at the top in the background. And Superboy starts thinking about stars. And that leads him to think about the Star of Bethlehem. And he's like, hey, we should find it. We can totally find it. So they hop in a cruiser, because what else are they going to do on Christmas Eve? And head out into space, and somehow they have coordinates for it. Lightning Lad uses the Nava computer, and they get to the spot where it's supposed to be, and there's no star there. But there is a planet that's entering an ice age. So Wildfire goes down and tries to help warm up the ocean people, and the others are working with land people, and the Legion gets together, and they find a cavern, and Superboy drills down to a hot spring way under the ground. And so the cavern is warmed by the hot spring. And so they have communication devices that let the three species on the planet talk to each other. And they agree to share the cave and live in the cave until this ice age is over. Because at first, every time they fix something, it's like, well, yeah, we thawed the stream, but it's going to freeze over again because Ice Age. And so at the end of the story, they have not found the Star of Bethlehem, I think, to probably no one's amazement. But Superboy says, well, you know, it might have been just Lightning Lad and a crazy Navicomputer, but something led us here. And that's kind of the end of the story. And so I sort of liked it. It had kind of a Christmassy theme, didn't really have to be a Christmas story. And it was the Legion helping people and working together, which is my favorite incarnation of the Legion, no matter, you know, how old they are, what shape they are, as long as they're working together and helping people, then that's it for me. And Alex, I think you...
No. You should go with with David, actually, right? Did
David?
No, I did. I answered. I like the GSA JLA meetups for Thanksgiving. I think those are some of my favorites.
Oh, well, I think I already did, didn't I?
Yeah, I thought you did, but I go by the order that people are on my screen in. And then when I start talking, I sometimes lose track of that. So I wanted to be sure that we got everybody.
No, I went.
Okay. Well, in the vein of keeping this positive, because, hey, holidays, what were some stories that you liked that were not your pick to share, your first pick to share? David, why don't we start with you?
I'm trying to think of specifics, but again, I don't like anything that's too dark. I'm kind of with y'all on the whole. I don't want, like, Batman's gotten too dark and grim for me. I'm at a point where I'm really into hope punk. I'm really into heroes being heroic. So anything where, like, anything is too cynical. Like, I recently tried to look at Batman Returns again, the second Tim Burton movie, and just the whole cynicism around the holidays in that. Like, the Penguin's parents getting rid of him in front of the Christmas tree. I'm really kind of over the whole cynical take on things. And so I'm shying away from those.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, so again, I've been watching quite a few things just to kind of like prepare and remind me. And one series or one special that really stood out to me was this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Christmas special from 1994 called We Wish You a Turtle Christmas. 21 minutes long, 15 minutes of it is just straight up music and singing. Out of those 15 minutes, maybe 1 minute of it I would listen to again. Like, it's very horrifying. The effect designs, the suits are definitely not Jim Henson. The budget is much lower. The teeth are always really prominent, like the teeth in the costume. And I listen to a lot of like reggae music, a lot of ska music, and so the song that really like stands out to me in that is this really cringy, hard to listen to like dance hall reggae track called "Deck the Halls with Pepperoni." It's the perfect mix of horrifying, really bad, terrible songs, and then also reggae music that just I really am drawn to.
I'm sorry, is the medication wore off?
I have to go find this. This sounds like it's on par with the Star Wars Christmas special.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, my youngest and all their friends are very into the current iteration of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Rise. So I will definitely have to find this to torture them with.
There's also the obligatory the rap about wrapping presents.
Oh God. Oh, all right. Okay.
Samantha, what about you?
My another one I considered was The Tick Loves Santa. There's several iterations of the Tick. This is from the animated series, right? And you can't beat the Tick for childish joy and enthusiasm about whatever it is that's going on. But what I remember about that one is how heartbroken the Tick was when he thought that Santa was committing crimes. It just broke his probably very giant heart.
Just a little blue heart, yes.
Yes, his probably very big blue heart because it has to pump that.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
He's nigh indestructible and quite large.
Okay.
I will just quickly say there's two things that I'll just say quickly. One is the Superman comic. It was issue number 64, which came out in the 90s and was written by Dan Jurgen. And it was a story where Superman, supposedly every Christmas, Superman goes to the Metropolis Maine post office to answer some of the letters that he receives throughout the year. And he goes through a series of them, and he gets this one letter from a little boy who's saying that his father is very ill and dying. And because Superman can do anything, he begs him to come and save his father. And so Superman has gone through a number of other things, and by the time he gets to the location, the father has already passed. And so the story is really about Superman trying to help the boy understand that certain things happen in life. And in this case, it's what do you do with the life that you have, you continue with, and what do you do with the memories, and that he's not a god, that he can just do certain things and he focuses on helping people. And it's really about the boy just sort of coming to terms with, as children learn sometimes from their pets passing, of how to cope with the death of a loved one and still continue on. So that one was one of my favorite sort of Christmas stories around that character. And then quickly, because we were saying non-cynical stuff, these are guys who are not super powered, but they're definitely heroes. And again, from my childhood, the Lone Ranger and Tonto. And this was very much, we do the right thing because doing right is what you're supposed to do. And you always help people no matter what the situation is, no matter what the odds are. And then once you've helped them, you get the heck out of town. You don't wait to be thanked. You don't wait for trophies and awards and rewards, because you've done the right thing by simply being there and helping, and then continuing to do that somewhere else. So I enjoyed this one story of, again, the Lone Ranger and Tonto coming across this kid who's trying to chop down a tree for his family, and they have, they have some bad guys they have to deal with, but also it's about not having a lot of money and what's really the value of Christmas. And so the Lone Ranger and Tonto sort of help them get through both those challenges. So I still enjoy the stories where, heroes are people that do the right thing for the right reason, and not necessarily to prove I'm all that, or because I'm going to get a reward from you. That sometimes people are just heroes. They just do what they can the best they can, and we're glad to have them.
Kelley?
Well, I have it's not really a Christmas, but it does have that same kind of feeling, because for me, we have like a lot of people that we try to remember around Christmas time. That's kind of, then, that's traditionally the time when everyone's just sitting around and talking about the people who have passed and, all that kind of stuff. So for me, the Sandman comic, The Wake, was a big one for me. I don't want to be spoiler-ish with it, but it has so many DC superheroes that show up in it. It has characters from across the universe that show up, and they don't always completely understand why they're there because they're in the dreaming, but there's this sense of like everyone coming together and collectively having an experience, and this camaraderie and sharing experiences together. I really just, it's not a Christmas thing, but I always read it around this time of year because it's just handled so respectfully, and just it deals with all these complexities that you've built up throughout the whole series. The other one that is a little darker that I wasn't sure about mentioning is a short comic that's called Sleigh Ride with Joker, and I think it's Tim Drake, where he's basically got Tim in the car and he's just driving around doing horrible things
with the apple in his mouth.
Yes. And Tim's trying desperately to get out of the car, and that's got that famous one where he drives up to get fast food and just shoots the person behind the window, and it's very darkly funny. Like I said, I grew up with my mom's EC comics, so I find that stuff hilarious, and then I'm like, oh man. So I mean, it just depends on how I'm feeling around the holidays and how frustrated I am with dealing with traffic.
Well, David, I know you have to leave us shortly, so if you'll answer the question and then tell people where they can find you and find information about your work, and then whenever you get ready, just slide out.
Sure. I forgot the question because I was thinking, the ones we let go of.
Yeah.
Batman Returns again. Anything too cynical? I really love what Alex was saying about. I want my heroes to be heroic. It's a big thing for me. I really don't like the darkening of every hero we've seen, and I feel like lately I'm finding more and more people having that kind of wish that their heroes be heroic. I love what you're saying about, it's what we're for, not what we're against. Like in the new Star Wars movies, for example, Poe Dameron. I love it. I love a hero that is always heroic, and they're not doing it for reward or praise or to show off their muscles. So, and you can find me at davidslayton.com. That's my website. Or if you look for me on social media, just don't forget the R. There's some Florida man types out there. And I'll see you around the internet. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thanks, David. Okay, so what do you think makes a really good superhero holiday story? And what do you think makes one less than satisfying? Samantha, will you start?
Well, I've already mentioned that I really like the redemption and coming back together kind of feeling. So I'm looking for, I think I like it best when the hero themselves kind of is the person who's rediscovering their spark. That maybe they're not feeling great going into this holiday season or something, and they find their purpose again. They get re-inspired. Heroes are inspirational to other people, but I think I keep coming back to those stories, not exactly for that part as much as for watching somebody deal with being a hero. And having been in a helping profession, I was a school teacher for 27 years. When people were trying to flatter me, they'd say I was a hero. And I'd say, then get me some good gear. But it's wearing all the caring and all the dealing with all the bad things, being there for all the crises. And so I think that's the moment I like best, is seeing the hero find, when they're feeling like maybe it's not worth it, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe I should step away, and they get re-inspired.
Alex?
I have to go with Samantha on that. And I also like it when the hero realizes that, because you're saying the hero sort of is re-inspired, it's like an affirmation. I like it when the hero helps someone discover that they are of value. I don't have your powers, I don't have this, I don't have that, but you are this, and you can do such and such, and you have done this, and therefore you have that. I like those moments too. Like even when you were talking about, I think it was you were talking about the Superman helping the guy whose car had broken down. It's one of those moments where Superman could have lifted the car, flown them somewhere, and go, "Hey, take it easy." But it's a human moment, and it's a moment of helping this man see some value in himself, see the world differently. And I think that's a part of what heroes do. I'll just very quickly say that a real life thing that I think of very often is the bombing of the Boston Marathon. And in that moment, just like with 9/11, and again, sorry to bring up these two difficult times, but in those moments, to see ordinary people who are just as vulnerable and don't have any powers and don't have any gear run towards the danger to help somebody they don't even know, that's inspiring. That is who we should aspire to be more often. And certainly in these times when, as we know, there's more division being promoted, I prefer to see more footage of this other aspect of who we are, because I know it's happening out there. It's just not getting the PR that the negative stuff is. So to me, I definitely think heroes can definitely be reminded, this is worth the fight. But I think also it's great when a hero can help someone else find that in themselves.
Okay. Kelley?
I completely agree with you on that, and I think I'm gonna kind of piggyback off that because I really enjoy watching heroes inspire others in their comic and thereby inspire us. I think some of my favorite superhero stories are ones where the hero talks a person back from self-harm or something like that, or through any kind of a mental health crisis. And I really enjoy seeing those kind of stories and that reflection and sort of coming to terms, not necessarily helping themselves by helping other people, but just helping other people for the sake of helping other people. I think that, you know, when Superman is helping, like I used to teach college students. I was a college English professor for probably like 8 years. And it was, you know, it was amazing how you would start off talking about, you know, grammar and then end up talking about, you know, someone's abusive boyfriend at home and what they should do and things like that. So those kind of conversations where you're not expecting anything, you're just being a person talking to another person and using those kind of superpowers for good, but also showing that you don't need superpowers to be a person that makes a difference in somebody's life. And I mean, at the end of the day, all of these superheroes are metaphors for the good that we ourselves can do individually and how we choose to do it. Like Batman's dealing with depression and his desire for revenge. You know what I mean? So how does he avoid letting that completely consume him? And I think that's a very relatable thing for a lot of people. And just seeing that even, you know, Batman can step outside of himself and help someone like Victor Freeze or somebody like that, and still make sure that that individual is taken care of without taking away their autonomy. Like, you know, just picking up the car. If Superman had just picked up that guy's car, it would have taken away the chance to connect and the chance for them to, for that person to have some autonomy in the situation. He gets to make the decision whether he's going to drive to Smallville or not. And that makes all the difference, I think.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, so thank you, Kelley and Alex and Samantha as well. But you know, hearing you folks talk about superheroes do like the big, the grandiose, the things that like the true hero things. One thing that really struck me watching a lot of these Christmas specials is the amount of times that we get to see the heroes do the mundane tasks of life, and I found that really endearing. In a lot of like manga and anime, there's kind of a genre that's popular called like slice of life. So characters that really don't have a lot of big drama, tension, just kind of characters hanging out. And I like that aspect in a lot of like superhero Christmas specials that I was watching. Like on that Comfort and Joy episode, Samantha, if you remember before the big kind of like bar fight, it's a snowball fight between Green Lantern and like Hawk Girl. And I found that a very great, endearing scene, especially seeing how they can use their powers to kind of, you know, elevate these very common mundane things, such as Green Lantern John Stewart makes like a catapult with his ring to like fling extra snow. Things like that I find really endearing. A couple other ones I just want to mention before I pass it off, like going back to Superman back in Kansas, the fact that his parents still wrap his presents in a layer of like lead foil before doing the wrapping paper so he can't x-ray vision to see what he's getting. In the Powerpuff Girls Christmas special, like instead of using the oven to make like the Christmas cookies and everything, like the Powerpuff Girls just use their heat vision to cook anything. So whenever I get to see these kind of mundane everyday tasks performed by these, you know, extraordinary powers, you know, those are small details. I'm not saying those make great stories, but those to me make very entertaining stories, very memorable stories.
They're great humanizing moments. Yeah, I agree with you. You had said, Nancy, at one point, you'd mentioned a TV series that you wanted to reference towards the end of this. And this seems like a great segue, too, because there's all of these elements in that series that you're going to. So I'll just let you, if you want to, still introduce it.
Well, I think you just did a great job of introducing it, and it's Hawkeye. So, Alex, why don't you start us off with Hawkeye?
Well, I mean, I think it's. I enjoyed the TV miniseries, and part of it is because it's definitely a Christmas story. It's definitely set in the Christmas time period. It's family, Hawkeye's family, and we know he's all about family. And they're trying to enjoy just a normal existence after the extraordinary in-game battle. And then, as will happen with anyone in this profession, bad people show up, bad things happen, and suddenly you're drawn into this. And in this case, and the series happened a year ago, but in case anyone out there listening hasn't watched it, I don't want to give spoilers here. So I'll simply say that Hawkeye is thrust into a situation where he has to choose between spending time with his family, which is precious to him at Christmas time. He really wants to be with them, and then getting pulled into this dangerous adventure because another person's life is at stake, and it's a young person. And I thought that's a great pull, because he just wants normal. He just wants normal. Like you were saying a little moment, I just want to have hot chocolate with my family. I just want to, and no, there's the guys with guns and bows and arrows and all this kind of stuff. And which way do I go? Because I have these special skills and they're needed here. And I think that's a great push-pull scenario. And I won't give away the ending of it at all. But there's two characters going through a lot of ups and downs and conflicts and push and pull and family challenges and all of this. And I think the way they factor in the Rockefeller Center and the Christmas tree and on all these other elements, the way the story comes to a conclusion really just puts a wonderful button on the value, at least for me, on the value of who a hero really is. And I got to give Hawkeye's wife like major props. That lady rocks, because no matter who comes by her house, no matter what the situation, she goes, "Hey, take care of business, babe, and then get home." So I'm all for her. I'm all for her. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to give any spoilers.
Yeah. Well, at this point, that's very considerate of you. But at this point, if people haven't watched it, they better hurry, because Disney Plus might take it off of streaming.
Hey, go ahead. Yeah.
But one of the things that I really liked about that is, as we were talking about earlier, holidays accent loss. At the holiday, you remember the people who aren't here this year, who were here last year. Yeah. And one of the things that I liked best about Hawkeye, and I also don't want to spoil it, because really, I'm not originally a Hawkeye fan, but if you like the Avengers, you need to go watch this miniseries. You just do.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it was finally, we got a sequel, a catharsis, a reaction to the death of Black Widow. And I'm sorry if you haven't seen Endgame, I just spoiled it for you, and that's just going to have to be your problem. That movie's been out for a while. So would anybody else like to add anything about Hawkeye?
I haven't seen it yet, so.
Okay, so
no.
I'll add that Kelley should go watch it.
No, yeah, I will go watch it. I don't care about spoilers, honestly. You can't live in a world these days without being spoiled by stuff. I'm more interested in how things come about, honestly. Yeah. So it's the how, it's not the what happens.
Well, there's a lot of good character stuff in that miniseries, I think. And the big tree at Rockefeller Center has what we might call an unfortunate role to play.
Ooh. Well, Nancy, from previous comics panels we do, that one of my my favorite heroes, who I actually didn't bring up this time, is Wolverine. And one of the dynamics they do with him all the time that I really love is falling into a friendship kind of relationship with a much younger female character. And he's always curmudgeonly and doesn't want to help, and it ends up being beautiful. And I got those same vibes from the mentorship relationship going on in Hawkeye. And I've liked Hawkeye across the Avengers, but there were only small moments where he really caught my attention. In such a large ensemble cast, they do an amazing job of trying to give everybody a moment, but Hawkeye didn't get as many moments.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciated the series for kind of rounding that version of Hawkeye out for me. I realized Avengers series movie Hawkeye is not the same as comic book Hawkeye and all of that kind of stuff, but it really deepened, my appreciation for that character, and that mentorship relationship was key to that.
I also like that he's wounded. I mean, it's not only that he's mourning the loss of the Black Widow, but his hearing. So you see your heroes go through these battles, and they always recover rather nicely. I mean, Captain America still looks pretty dang good considering how many fights he's been in. He's not punch drunk or anything. But here's a hero who went through some extreme scenarios, and now he's wounded. He's got something that doesn't just magically go away, and actually impairs him in certain ways that he has to deal with and has to adjust, and makes him also feel a little more vulnerable. So I enjoyed, just the levels of the series, and I think I agree with you, Samantha. Definitely you should watch it. Anybody who hasn't, watch it, enjoy it, hopefully enjoy it. I think it's worth the time, and it's right around this season, so you can enjoy it doubly.
Right. When somewhere it's been a year since I watched it, so I can't remember the details, but I remember that somebody asked him how he lost his hearing, and then we got this montage of him falling out of buildings with things exploding behind him, being thrown in impacts and all of that kind of stuff. But the character doesn't really answer. He just he remembers all that, and he's like, I don't know which one cost me my hearing. I think it was kind of the cumulative effect.
Steve, did you want to add anything?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Kelley. I did not check out this series. I'm a little wary of a lot of Disney plus Marvel stuff, but I definitely feel compelled to watch it now. And also, I'm not spoiler sensitive, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't have anything to add on this topic.
Okay.
Well, then definitely you get my vote to watch that, and I'll actually email you about another Disney Plus thing you should watch that has to do with the MCU.
Okay. Well, actually, we have blown through our time. So is there anything that anybody wants to talk about that we haven't already touched on? No? Well, all right then. Let's go around, and y'all please tell people where they can find you if you have a new or upcoming release that you would like to spotlight, or a seasonal release, or really anything that you want to spotlight. Go ahead and tell us about it now. Kelley, how about you start?
Sure. I'm Kelley M. Frank. Make sure you add the M in there. It's Kelley with 2 E's. There's a lot of Kellys. There's a lot of Kelley Franks. There's only one Kelley M. Frank, apparently, hopefully. I also go by Morbid Smile Art because, again, common name. So if you look up Morbid Smile Art, you'll be able to find me. I currently am running a sale on commissions and Etsy sales in general on my shop. You can find that if you go to morbidsmile.com, and you can find all my socials there.
Steve?
Yeah, I just had an article come out in the journal Popular Music History. I know this is all comic book stuff, but if you like ska music, punk music, it's called On the Borders of Ska, again, in Popular Music History. In terms of socials, I put my Twitter name on my Zoom window because it's kind of long last name, Stendebach. And then they made me put a G on it. So that's where you can find me if Twitter is still a thing in the next few months and years.
Okay, Samantha?
So when I saw Steve do that, I stole the idea. So I put my Twitter tag on there too, Samantha B. Writer. I also use that one on Instagram, Counter Social, and Mastodon. So, try to be locatable. You can find more about me and my work at samanthabryant.com. It once upon a time was a mommy blog, and now is a very awkward website, but it'll give you links to all the things. I'm currently writing the 5th and final Menopausal Superheroes series novel. And if you're interested in a Christmas story related to it, then you should sign up for my newsletter before December 1st. And you'll get Oh Scaly Night, which features Patricia, the lizard woman of Springfield, whose idea of Christmas involves violence.
Alex, what about you?
And eating flies, right? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
What about you?
Oh, me. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'll start out by saying that you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, and I put mine in here too at Alex Simmons Says. I also have my website, which is simmonshereandnow.com. And well, actually, what's just happened recently is the paperback version of the anthology Black Panther: Tales of Wakanda just came out in October, so it's on sale now. It's a fat book. I'm one of 18 wonderful writers who had a chance to do some wonderful Tales of Wakanda involving either the Black Panther or some of the other wonderful characters from that world. And so I will definitely say, put that under everybody's tree, or any other holiday that you represent that you feel you want to celebrate at this time of the year. Please add that book to that experience.
Okay, and you can find me here at ConTinual. For information about my books and other general things, you can visit nancynorthcott.com, which also has social media links. I do have a Facebook page. I'm not there very much. The easiest way to connect with me on social media is via Twitter, where I'm at Nancy Northcott, and I'm probably there more than is really good for me. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for participating in this panel and everyone who's watched it. And thank you also to our sponsors, Heroes Aren't Hard to Find and Heroes Convention. For more information, visit heroesonline.com.